Good morning, everybody. Before we get started, we're still about 2 minutes out. Let's just do a sound check and make sure that everything's good on the tech side here. Can I get an amen? Well, okay, let's go ahead and get started. Who's my tech host here today? Give me a thumbs up that I heard the recording kick in. Just let me know we're ready to go and we will do it. I see the recording button that doesn't look like it's, oh, yeah, it is. Okay. All right, I guess we're ready to go. Good morning, everybody. Tim, thanks for the amen. Appreciate it. My screen is not shared. You're right, it's not, but it will be now. All righty. You should all be seeing it now. Hi, Helen. Hey, Brenda. Boy, it's nice to see you guys. Haven't seen you for a while. Okay, folks, let's get going there. Here is our disclaimer. And our disclaimer is the same every single time. You should have seen it 100 times already, unless you're brand new. And if you're brand new, what this says in all of this legal uh, detail here in tiny print is that we are not going to be giving you any specific trading advice. We may be looking at charts. We may be talking about trading scenarios. We may be doing all kinds of things that we're talking about education in trading environment, both techniques and strategies and details and indicators and all that kind of stuff, lions, tigers, and bears, but we are not giving you advice on any specific trades and reminding you that there is risk in all trading. As long as it's funded, there's risk. And you just need to remember that. Okay. In that context, we keep going here. Wonderful calendar content. I every time you guys hear from me, I throw props out to Rob, and it's not because I owe him. Well, wait a minute, I do owe him. I do owe him. Rob's taught me an awful lot. He's been a great friend over the years. We have been through uh, oh, refining fire, if you will, at certain times. We went through some, really challenging situations together. We went through some really high times. It's just wonderful to have a friend that you know that you can relate to so much with. Also, I love the idea that is my camera is off. I thought I had that back on. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can figure that out. Get the controls. There we go. All righty, there you go. Anyway, it's nice to have the camaraderie. And camaraderie is comes in two forms. You can have just a collegial camaraderie, and then you got the camaraderie that comes from people that have been in a foxhole bleeding together with, as well as celebrating the top of the mountain. And that's the way I feel about Rob. And the fact that he comes up with this much content, I know exactly how much work it takes to do this. And when I say that, I have to catch myself. I do know in concept how much work it takes to put this much content out because I've had to put a lot of content out, but I've never had to put out the kind of content as much as Rob does. And so there I tip my hat and say, you guys are really lucky and you need to take advantage of that because it takes a lot of work to put this much content together. And I salute the man for that because I'm not inclined to do that. I'm happy to be here doing my little part, but Rob's the man. All right, here we go. The new focus, the new product focused on crushing it in 2004. Excited to see that develop. Please take advantage of it. And we've got a slide with Tony in there. I'm not sure how that got in there, but props to Tony, my dear friend Tony. All right, so today I wanted to talk about this is an attitude exercise and reminder today. This is really critical. I'm going to segue by telling you my son, who I'm extremely proud of. I'm proud of all my kids, but I've got a son that moved his family 2.5 years ago to Puerto Rico from Georgia. Why'd they go to Puerto Rico? Well, quite frankly, they had a feeling that they had kind of a calling to give back, to help out. My son spent a couple of years in a developing country where earlier in his life, where he had a chance to really help people that were in a lot less favorable circumstances that most of us here in the United States are. And he always had kind of a sense that he wanted to go back and to go someplace where he and his wife, with their experience and their family, they could have a experience outside the United States, and they could have an experience where they could give back and be helpful. Well, they're doing that in Puerto Rico, and they'll be probably moving back this May, and we'll be excited to have them back stateside. But his career has developed over the last 3 years. He really got an interest in personal development. Guys like Tony Robbins inspired him, and he took a lot of training and masterminding. And the reason I'm telling you this is because he has become now, he is getting some good recognition as a life coach, a training coach. And there's a lot of the things that I learned in the early days with Rob as I developed what I called market Aikido, but it was the aspects of understanding better the psychology of trading. Not I have never seen very much variety. I don't know about you guys. I've never seen much variety in all of the instructions and books that I've seen out there about the quote unquote psychology of trading. And I have read a ton, and I have sat at the feet of some, great behavioral science people talking about trying to correlate to market trading. And I've listened to people who are traders who talk about mindset and what that means. And I found, quite frankly, that they are talking about this from a standpoint where it makes sense, but it doesn't change anybody. Or it changes very little and very few people. So it's accurate information, but it doesn't translate. And my whole career for about 16 years was foraging deeply into this mystery zone of how do you understand what's happening in your head and the behavior that happens in trading. How do you correlate that when so much of it is so frustrating and doesn't seem to make sense? It's very common for traders to think everybody else is getting this except me. Okay. Why isn't this working? And then sometimes you'll get on a streak and it'll just take off. And you go, hey, look at me, nothing can go wrong, and then crash. And you go, wait a minute, I don't get it. Everything was going so good. And what happened? I read the book, I'm trying to do the exercises. But the thing is, guys, your opposition in your trading is coming from a place that you can't consciously affect. You don't consciously control your subconscious. In fact, you could say the opposite. Your subconscious subconsciously controls your conscious because it really does. And so standing on the outside, throwing rocks at something that you can't even see may make you feel good, and talking about things, oh yeah, this is good, or this is what it is. And but the things that actually make you able to change are very difficult. And so what my son has become very good at is something called breakthroughs, and that is helping people in no matter what aspects of their life, whether it's in business and or just personal relationships, being able to get them to go someplace, a guided journey, if you will, that can actually make changes in their subconscious and changes in their mindset, the set, the actual functioning of their subconscious, and to do it rather quickly, over a 1 or 2 day period. It's very intense, but it actually works. And I'm not saying anything negative about psychology industry and the psychiatric industry, but it seems like there's an awful lot of guaranteed employment, if you will, of ongoing sessions that go for weeks and months and years, and seem like it has limited results. I'm blown away by the things that he's been able to do. He worked with a couple recently that were having real struggles in their marriage, and as he interviewed them, he told them, he said, "I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think you guys can stay together." Now, this is a guy who is family, 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 family first. I mean, that's who we are. That's what we are in our DNA, our religious background. Everything is about holding and keep. And he said, because these people were, frankly, they were not compatible. They were destroying themselves and their kids. And he said, I'm not going to help you save your marriage. I'm going to help you save yourselves. And then if you can figure out the marriage, that's great. But he said, both of you are so messed up that once you get through this, you may or may not be able to find that this is going to work for you. Long story short, it's exactly what happened. I mean, exactly. Now, the good news is that the people are very happily divorced and happily raising their children jointly because they have no animosity towards each other. They are just simply not compatible. Okay. But now they can deal with it, and they're dealing with it in the most healthy way possible. 2 weeks ago, he did a breakthrough with a billionaire that lives in the area that where he's at down there in Puerto Rico. He just happens to know the guy through church. The guy's a billionaire, and he went through this with him, and now the guy's probably going to be a quintillion. I don't know, because he had some real hangups. He got him through it. Now, what's that all about? This all ties into what I'm going to talk about today, because the things that hold you back are things that are triggered by your subconscious. Now, I'm going to tell you that there was a time that I was struggling, really, really struggling with something in my life. And I had, I was juggling a whole bunch of balls in the air, and I was feeling so overwhelmed. And my wife, it was so special to me, so incredible. I was sitting there, and I remember I'd been in some tears, and I was sitting on the bed and kind of leaning up against her because I was just totally flummoxed. I didn't know what to do. And she kind of held me, or instead of me holding her, which is usually the case, she kind of put her arm around me, and she looked at me and she said, "Ryan, so what?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "So what? What if that happens? So what's the worst? Tell me what." And as I told her, she goes, "Okay, we're not dead. Can we work our way out of it?" "Yeah, but it's going to be." She said, "No, no." She said, "So what? We got our kids. We got each other. Are we going to lose the house?" "No, we're not going to lose the house." No, it's not like that. It's just that." She said, "Okay, so what?" And guys, all of a sudden a light bulb went on, and I went, "Wait a minute." I got so far down the rabbit hole. I got so wound up in this thing. And I had lost perspective. I had let it wrap me up and go into tunnel vision. And I was tearing myself up with cortisol, all the negative emotions, the stress emotions. And I was worrying about the worst case possible scenario. Now, I shared this, I believe, last month with you, but I'll remind you again that there's some statistics about worry, and I'll go over them with you again. But if you can remember that, I want to go over that again. So let's talk about this, because trading can cause some emotional challenges. And you've got to have this attitude of so what, or you will get sucked down into the morass of worrying and doubting yourself and then getting too high, celebrating, spiking the ball in the end zone, and then find yourself back going, wait a minute, what happened? And if you can't keep that in perspective, it'll tear you up. It's not worth it. I'm going to tell you, it's not worth it. But you can develop and utilize this attitude. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some. Let's lay some groundwork. Fear is the strongest motivator. It's stronger than reward. It's been proven over and over again. Use reward to get people to motivate. Yeah. That's all fine and good. But it is much easier. It is much easier to scare people out of a theater at a scary moment in a movie. It's dark and somebody screams fire and 20 people jump up and start running. The whole theater will empty. Anybody see a fire? No. Well, why'd you run? Well, because they were running. And I mean, you can motivate people really, really fast with fear. Reward, standing outside on the street, talking people into your theater, that's different. That takes a lot more energy. I mean, you can tell them how great the movie is, the popcorn's awesome, you're going to love this, but you're trying to talk them into something. Boy, oh boy, you say the right thing in the right circumstance, and you can start a stampede really fast. So fear is a stronger motivation than reward, and it can paralyze you. It can paralyze you. We tend to manifest the things that we dwell on. So, I mean, there's some little colloquialisms that I want you to just remember that you know these, because these aren't things that you heard. Oh yeah, I heard that. These things to live by. As a man thinketh, so is he. That's absolutely true. What you think about the most is what you manifest. You become that. He who hesitates is lost. There's absolutely truth in that. Sometimes you see a path forward, you hesitate, it's too late. Okay, you've got to be able to be decisive, and you can't be just sitting there stuck worrying about what might happen, waiting for the perfect moment. Practice makes permanent. Practice does not make perfect, except that if you practice whatever you're doing, you may become perfect at it, but it doesn't mean that it's the right thing. You could be really good at doing the wrong thing. Practice just makes permanent. You want to be perfect, or you want to be practiced in the right thing, you got to practice the right thing until it becomes perfect. And then fear is a learned response. Guys, falling and loud noises are the only two fears that you were born with. Everything else that occupies that space in your life was learned. It was learned through experience, and the market will trigger those learned responses. It can trigger a number of the things that you have learned reactions that are in your brain as to how you react in a fearful situation, in a startling situation, in a ominous situation where you start to feel things before they even materialize. All of those are learned responses, which means they can be unlearned. You can deal with it. And I can't tell you the transition that took place. It was just like a light switch. And I can remember laying there on the bed with my wife, leaning up against her because I was so consumed in my despair. And she simply said, "So what?" And when that settled in, it literally changed. I'll never forget it. And I've used that so many times in the meantime, or in between times now. And I would pass that on to you as something to just try to wrap your head around. So what? So what? So here's the stats of worry that I talked about. That I've seen 2 studies on this done by universities. Fascinating. Fascinating. 85% of what we fear does not come to pass. 85% of the things that we're worried might happen don't happen. So that means 15% of the time, these are rough numbers, about 15% of the time, what you were worried about does happen. But when that happens, about 80% of that is far less than what you thought it would be. It's no big deal. It certainly isn't as bad. In other words, 80% of it is not nearly as bad as you thought, and a lot of it is a total, oh, well, that's not a big deal. So when it gets right down to it, about 3% of what we worry about actually happens in the context of being as bad or worse than we thought. Okay. Now that's a big study from a university, and there might be some of you out there laughing, going, "Wait a minute, they should have had me in the study because I would have tipped the scales the other way. Everything I worry about actually does come true." I don't know if that's true. I'm really sorry. but when you take a large sampling, these are the numbers they came up with. So if you go around with a little black cloud that always rains on you, I'm really, really sorry about that. You know, get a bigger umbrella. And I'm really sorry that you're an exception, because that is an exception. Now, can anybody support that in the sense that you look at that and you go, yeah, that's probably true? Can anybody relate to that? That when you honestly think about it, most of the stuff we worry about isn't as bad or never happens. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Okay, well, that's good. That's good, because this is the kind of thing that most people can get really distracted with, and it does relate to and impact your trading. So, trading involves risk. Everybody knows that. And what the way we treat risk is we talk about it in terms of, well, you have to have a strategy, you have to da da da, and it tends to be mechanical of writing it down. How much risk? What percentage? How much is tolerable? Da 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 da. Guys, your mind, your psyche reacts to risk is not linear. It is not rational. Nobody reacts in their subconscious to risk by looking at a percentage. Well, it's okay because I only have this percentage, da da da. No, no, no. Risk is visceral. It happens in your subconscious. It only exists because you have learned to fear things. Remember, falling and loud noises are the only two fears that you were born with. Everything else you learned. Risk is not even definable to a baby. They can be surprised by falling or loud noises, but they don't even perceive risk because they have nothing to base it on. You and I talk about risk because we can relate to it. Oh yeah, I've stepped on that rock and that was really, really sharp. I don't go bare feet on sharp rocks. Why? Well, there's a risk that bad experience might happen again. See? So when we talk about risk tolerance in trading, there's more to it than just defining, putting something down on paper. Well, if it goes against me 10% or $180 or $2,000, I will do this. Okay, that's a nice cerebral exercise. Will you actually do it when it happens? Good question. And that's where a lot of people get in trouble, because they actually don't. They can't. They can say it rationally, but you're rationally making a promise that your subconscious simply didn't even hear and has no intention of honoring. But your subconscious or your conscious felt really good about it because it made sense. I adopted a great risk tolerance strategy. See, I can write it down and I'm going to do this. And I read this book and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do what the guy said on the seminar that I went to. Yay, yay, yay for my conscious making all these commitments. Subconscious is going la 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 la, fingers in the ears, eyes closed, making noise. It doesn't care. It doesn't your conscious can promise anything it wants. The subconscious is going to do what it's going to do when it's in that circumstance. Unless you change that subconscious, you will keep getting the same response. Okay, you just do. And again, this is what my son is. I'm amazed and so proud because I love this stuff. I've studied it myself. In fact, I take credit for inspiring him because all things I used to teach him about this kind of stuff. But he's on another level now. And he can take and work with people and get to that subconscious and literally help them change at the subconscious level. And he's had people that, for like 2-3 years now that have never gone back. Their life completely changed. Now, I'll tell you an anecdotal story about trading, just real quick, that happened just a month ago. And he had a fellow that, well, let's just say the guy, he traded in cryptocurrencies. Okay, that's still trading, right? And he was down on his luck, and Darren said that he literally didn't have enough money to make his house payment and his car payment. And he went through this breakthrough, and the guy came out of it after the second day, and he said, I feel like a new person. He said, I am on top of the world. He said, I can take anything on. Well, Darren said he came back to him 3 weeks later, less than a month later, and he said, just wanted to let you know that I've made $500,000 in the last 3.5 weeks, in less than a month, trading. Darren said, what? He goes, he said, my whole head. He said, I just my everything's square, everything's is clear. I have all the confidence in the world. And he said, it's working. I guess it's working. 500,000 in 3.5 weeks. I said, I hope he gave you a bonus. But the bottom line is risk is a subconscious principle. It's what you have defined as how much risk you're willing to take, what you do when you're threatened, um, how comfortable you are being rational when things are threatening from a risk standpoint. So in the planning stage, it's easy to say it. In the practice, um, it gets a little more complicated. You have to be able to have an attitude shift that allows you to handle risk properly and to do this so what, to be able to handle risk in a so what attitude. Not terribly easy to do because you're fighting your subconscious. There are ways to do it. We're going to talk about it. But um, I say tolerable is only comprehended when it's realized. What you're really tolerable, what you're really your tolerance level is, you don't really know until you start bleeding, right? Until you start having the pain and you're going, whoa, wait a minute. And you can say, no, you said this was your tolerance. Yeah, but I'm feeling it now and it's different. Okay. So you have to learn what you can tolerate, what you can't, and you do that by experience, but you start it with the simulation process, going from simulation to non-funded trades or simulation non-funded trade to funded trades. It's kind of a tricky step when it gets real, right? So we want to talk about how to develop this attitude, and you're going to utilize proper sim trading to do that. Okay. The transition between non-funded and funding trades, guys. I'm going to say the secret is build on success. And if you don't believe me, then just go to the next one, which is build on success. And if that doesn't work, then build on success. In other words, you have got to be able to build on little successes and build into it slowly. When you, unless you're doing some dramatic phase shift like my son does in these breakthroughs, which is a very big deal, and most of us won't go to the effort to do that, then you've got to carefully and slowly change your subconscious. And you do that by kind of sneaking up on it. You don't confront it head on unless you are willing to go to the mat. Unless you're willing to die for it, you don't get to do that. Guys, I am going to hang on just a second. I've got a little bit of, let's see, where is it? Got a little bit of emergency. Give me just a second to give some direction real quick. Okay, guys, really sorry about that. I had somebody that was lost, and my bad. We're back here. Had somebody lost, and I had to give them some direction. All right, get back to this. Okay, sorry about that. Um, here's something. Here's another anecdote I was going to put on the other page, and I decided that I would put it here instead of there. And that is one more little colloquialism. I love this. I try to live by this. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you can start with that adage that practice makes permanent, make sure you're practicing perfectly. And sometimes you have to slow it down, dumb it down, make it easy, and so that you can get it right. If you can get it right, then you can do that again and maybe add a little bit more and a little bit more. So you can, the way I found that you change is you either go all in and it is literally a fight to the death. I mean, it is brutal, and it is you have to take on your subconscious in a very dramatic, brutal way to make changes quickly, or you slowly make changes, which is how you got the problem in the first place, okay, or how you got the resistance that you're dealing with in the first place. You got it little by little by little. It may have based on an event, but then you reinforced it and reinforced it. So undoing it, sometimes the easiest way to undo it is just to do it kind of slow and casual, like that. So what? That casual attitude. So you take a little small bites, you take little bites, you take a small amount of risk, just a little bit after you've done it successfully in the practice mode, in the sim mode. Then you take a little bit of risk, and then you take a little bit more. You take a little bit more, and if something goes wrong, you back up a little bit. You don't freak out, but you transition kind of slowly. You take little nibbles and you move up slowly. That's the process that I've found works the best for most people, because the dramatic one, um, that's tougher. That's tougher. And there's not very many resources out to do that kind of thing. But this does seem to work. Repetition gives experience. Um, Practice will make perfect if you practice perfectly. And so if you go too fast, you will trip too hard, you question yourself, you get discouraged, and then it's really hard. And a lot of people just they get discouraged and they back out. And it's because they're pushing too hard. They're not afraid to do what I call hurry up and go slow. Malcolm Gladwell has an amazing book. He has three amazing books that I know of, and one of them talks about the 10,000 hours to reach unconscious competence, to reach total mastery. Everybody in any major field of endeavor, whether it's sports or physics or anything else, can track roughly 10,000 hours of practice until they became total masters at what they were doing. Okay. And he found that across the board. And it was interesting that it was around 10,000 hours for everybody. So it takes a while, but I'm not saying don't be discouraged. Don't think that you won't have success until after 10,000 hours. That's not true at all. But the principle is that you need to take it slow. You recognize it's going to be building on success. Do a little bit, do a little bit. Don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged, and don't be afraid to downshift. Downshift, it's so funny. Very few people as a group anyway now know how to drive a stick. Everybody drives automatics, and you put a lot of people, most people I know, if you put them into a vehicle with a stick shift, they wouldn't know what to do. But downshifting means you got to slow down. And so in slowing down, you just don't jam on the brakes. You have to shift down. You back it up. You scale back. You drop down a gear. And don't be afraid, if things start not working, you back down. You back off. It's no big deal. No, it's not a shame thing at all. Okay. Now I'm going to teach you something that is probably this is the crux of everything I wanted to teach you today. This so what attitude. How do you get to so what? Okay. How do you get to it? This is something I learned many, many years ago, and I absolutely love it. It's called what got so what now what. That's how you can remember it. What got so what now what. Okay. It's an evaluation process of something that maybe has happened that you didn't like, or that was difficult, or that was challenging to you. And you simply ask the question, what? What happened? Explain it. Say it out loud. What just happened? Once you clearly define what happened, then you go to the gut. What are you feeling about this? How are you feeling? Okay. What is going on about it? What's the reaction? I am devastated. Okay. I'm frustrated. Okay, great. Are you still alive? Oh yeah, I'm still alive, but I'm hurting, and you just describe it, and then you go to so what? So what does that mean? So what does that mean? Does that mean my life is over? No, it doesn't. Does it mean that I'm a failure? Well, it sure feels like it. Yeah, that's the gut part of it. But is that true? So what? Is it really true? No, no, I'm not. I'm not a failure. But this is not working well. I had 4 trades go against me in a row, and I thought I had this figured out. So, does it mean that you're a failure? No. Okay. So what? So what? So what's going on? Is it possible that there is just something going on in the market that's making it difficult, so that the processes that used to work aren't working right now? Things aren't acting normal. Yeah, it's possible that the market's not acting normal for the last week or 2 or 3. Okay, well, let's check it. So you look and you find, yeah, there's some volatility. Okay, so what used to work isn't working right now. Maybe it's not your fault. Maybe it's the market is changing. That's all. And then you go to now what? So what do I need to do about it? And the answer might be nothing, right? This may be one of those things I worry about that turns out, it's not as bad as I thought. 85% happen that way. In fact, 97%, by one definition, you could say that, but at least 85%. So you go to now. So now what? So what do I need to do? And if there's something to do, do it. If you have to look at a frog, don't, or if you have to eat a frog, don't look at it very long. That's another one I love. If you have to eat a frog, don't look at it very long. So what happened? What's going on? How are you dealing with it? How are you feeling? Okay. So what? So the so what allows you to start letting go of the emotional response because you realize, oh, well, I guess it's not that bad. I'm not dead. Um, you evaluate it and then you say, well, now what am I going to do about it? I love this sequence. I use it, I teach it. It helps me get unstuck. What, gut, so what, now what? This is keeping perspective, guys. It's keeping perspective. This is how you dismantle fear. You talk about it. You put it rational. Why? Because fear is not rational. It's an emotional response to things that have happened in the past. And we know that the majority of the time, they're not as bad as we thought. And the fear is a learned fear. So, how do you take it apart? You shine light on it. You drag it out from under the shadows. You put it on the stage and say, all right, let's look at you. How big and scary are you really? And when you bring it out and look at it and shine a light on it, most of the time it shrinks. And you know what I'm talking about. If you can relate to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're all wound up with something in your head, and somebody says, tell me about it. And as you tell them about it, it's like it disappears. It was huge in your subconscious. It was huge when it was running rampant through your head. But when you drag that out there, talk about it, put it out in the light of day, even bring another person in to take a look at it with you, you're going, oh, never mind. Okay. You break it down, you evaluate it, you talk about it, you slow the process down and or you shut it down because it's not what you thought it was. Guys, these are life lessons, but they apply to your trading because trading will push buttons. Trading will get you frustrated. Trading will get you discouraged. Trading will get you doubting yourself. And you need to be able to process it. Otherwise, it's reinforcing itself in a loop that will eventually get you discouraged enough that you quit. And that's not the right thing to do. So, how do you sim trade? Guys, you sim trade, you simulate trading by making it as real as possible. You don't talk about it as paper trading. You don't even talk about it as simulated trading, which is what it is. It's trading. Guys, if you are going through the actions of a trade, it's trading. Whether it's funded or not, it's trading. I just refer to it as it's non-funded trading, but it's still trading. It's not, it doesn't serve you to say, well, this is sim trading, or this is paper trading, or this is practice trading. It's just trading. And you can put anywhere from $0 to $50,000 in a trade. It's still a trade, and you have to think of it that way. So I love simulation training, but I don't like making it be different than real training because it's not. I have met, I can't tell you the person's name because I don't remember now, but I swear to you, I have met a pilot, an airline pilot for American Airlines, who the first time he ever set foot in a 767 airplane, the first time he ever sat in that seat, he flew it full of passengers. Now, they didn't make an announcement to say, everybody, just don't make a lot of noise on this flight and don't cause any ruckus because your captain's never been in one of these airplanes. He's never been in a 767 before. Okay. And he explained to me, because I was teaching this whole principle of how you utilize correct simulation trading. And he says, well, he said, I want to tell you, he said, I learned how to fly a 767 in a simulator. Now, he had flown other airplanes. So it's not like he didn't know how to fly, but he'd never flown a 767. But he flew it in a simulator. He got enough hours, got checked off, walked onto an airplane, and flew it. Now, was there another pilot in the cockpit with him? Yeah, there was. But he said, I flew it. He said, nobody held my hand. They didn't tell me what to do. I knew what to do. He said, I'd never been in 767, but the simulator was good enough to where I knew exactly what to do, and it did exactly what I expected it to do. And I was just fine. So, guys, simulation training is legit. It's used for everything now. People learn how to do cranes, the high rise cranes that lift things up and build skyscrapers. Those guys learn how to do that, not by practicing 400 feet in the air. They practice in a simulator till they get good enough, and then they put them up there because the simulators are good enough. And the tools that you've got through Omega charts or through whatever you're using, almost all of them have training processes where you can do unfunded trades. And you can do them just as real to keep the account. Everything's good. You all know this. What I'm saying is take advantage of it. And anytime you need to downshift, anytime you need to back up, don't stop trading. Just shift into simulation mode, shift into non-funded trading. And don't even call it sim trading. I mean, I like it. We can talk about it. But once you know what it is, don't call it that. You're just trading. I'm just not funding right now. So you shift over to that part of your account where you can keep trading without funding. Okay, things straighten out. You start funding a little bit more and you just shift back into the fully funded account. But it's so what? It's so what? No big deal. Okay. Oh, I got some trades going against me. That's never happened before. Well, maybe not. Did anybody tell you that could happen? Yeah. Okay. So it's not a surprise. So what? Well, yeah, except I'm experiencing it now and I never experienced it before. Okay, I get it. So it's triggering some things. So go to the non-funded, but keep going. The market's crazy right now. I don't want to put any funded trades, so I'm going to wait it out. No, 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 no. You know how much value, guys, you could get by trading a crazy market that doesn't make sense? Just pull the money off and see. Go into it, let it beat you up. Put your quarter or your 2 quarters in the laundromat dryer. Climb in, have your friend close it. Get banged around. Just go for the experience. Trade in an environment where absolutely nothing makes sense. You'll get some experience out of that. You don't have to lose a bunch of money, but it won't scare you anymore, or it will give you a perfect recognition of, wow, when it does that, no matter what I do, nothing works. I know if I had one that worked because it was just a pure fluke. It was like throwing a dart in with my eyes closed and actually accidentally hitting something. You will learn how to understand and respect what happens when markets become very volatile and very unpredictable. And having experienced that, it's not that big a deal. And when it starts to do that again, you'll go, okay, I'm just going to back off and go over here. And because of the last experience, maybe you may say, I'm going to keep kind of throwing things a little bit, but when it gets this crazy, I may just watch it. And that's fine if you've already traded through it and you've proven that you can just get in there and experience it, and it's not going to kill you, but you can have some experience because you're not funding it, but you're still experiencing it. Awesome. Now, the next time it happens, if you said, I'm not going to play this time, I totally respect that. I'd say that's great because you've done it. You don't have to do it again if you already know how it's going to work, but don't be afraid of the thing. It's so what? Oh, the market's so volatile. I can't make anything work. Yeah, so? Well, and as a person, spirals into this self, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Nothing makes sense. You're going, dude, relax, do that, chill. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Just keep going through it. Don't fund it. Pull back out. Get some experience. Climb on that thing. See what happens. Right? And then when it settles back down, build on success. Put a little bit back in. Okay, now I'm feeling it. Yeah, we're good. This is good. Charles, thank you for Charles said this perfect analogy on the simulator. I've been in many, and what you said is so true. That's right. Guys, I am not a pilot, but I have flown a 747 3 times. Well, 2 times. But I've had several landings and takeoffs in a 747. I even crashed a 747 once. And the folks were not happy. because I was flying a $35 million simulator. The simulator, the cockpit I was sitting in flying was so real, it felt like any airplane ride I've ever had. It was amazingly real, unbelievable, unbelievable. But I crashed it. And apparently, if you do that, you can break those things. And then they have to fly a crew in and it shuts down for 24 hours and they lose a bunch of money. So they were not happy when I crashed the 747, but they were also extremely complimentary when I landed it perfectly the first time. That was a cool experience. And so I've had several takeoffs and landings, and because I was so lucky to have a friend that was an actual 747 captain who snuck me in to a couple of training sessions and used some of the time that was open. But I'll tell you what, I've been in a lot of airplanes. I've flown actual little airplanes. Friends, a lot of friends let me fly their airplanes. But the 747, it felt as real on takeoff, threw me back in my seat as anything I've ever done. And I can see that if you can fly this thing, like my friend who flew the 767 for the very first time ever in his life, fully loaded, if you can pass the simulator, you can fly the thing. You can drive the car. You can, um, use the crane. And by the way, Charles, to echo what you're just saying, if you guys have not seen the movie um, Grand Theft Auto, no, is that what it's called? Oh, it's a movie that's out. It's a game, right? But there's a movie. Grand Theft Auto is a game. I know, but there's a movie that's a true story where they used they monitored people that were playing this game, and somebody got the idea from Toyota. I think it was Toyota, the racing team, that they would find the best drivers in this game. No, Gran Turismo. There we go. Gran Turismo. That's what it is. Gran Turismo. And they literally went around the country. They had a competition online and they took the top about 10 young people, kids that were playing this game, the Gran Turismo, on their freaking computers. And they brought them to the actual training facility and put them in race cars to see if what they learned in the simulator could translate into the real thing. And it did. It did. It's an amazing story. It goes along with this so perfectly. So if you haven't seen Gran Turismo, go see it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a hoot. It's a great movie, but it's true. It's based on true story. They literally took a kid from a video screen to a winning the race on the pulpit. On the top, he won. Big competition. He became a qualified driver and then won a championship series. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So, how do you sim trade? You make it real. You treat it real. You treat it real. And all of your trading is trading. It's just trading, whether it's funded or not. It's just trading. And you adopt this attitude of so what? So what? It didn't work out. Okay, so what? All right. Now, let's take a couple of questions, and then I want to go to charts, and I want to show you guys something that I alluded to a month ago. We didn't quite get to, but I want to show you something with regard to candlesticks. And then anything else, we've got about 15 minutes, and we play Stump the Dummy, and we will take a look at charts and look at whatever things you want to look at, and pull up any chart you want, any stock you want, and we'll just help you kind of do some evaluation on it. Okay, so I'm going to shift over. And take any questions. Anybody have any questions on anything we talked about today? I don't know if that was helpful to you or not, but I'll tell you what, if you can adopt this attitude of so what, if you can remember to handle problems in your life with what got, so what, now what, you'll be better off for it. You will do better in your trading. You'll do better in your life if you can handle the stress and the difficulties better. Okay, because trading will definitely stress you out. and challenge you. All right. I wanted to show you a couple things on, let's see, should you sim trade that same amount as your funding? That's a great question, Will. That's a great question. And my answer on that is yes, because the amount that you're trading should be what you're normally trading anyway. Okay. And what you're looking for is, does it work or does it not work? I don't want you to look at a trade and say, well, this doesn't count because I've only got $100 at risk. That will taint you, Will. You see what I'm saying? That's not a good thing to say, well, there's only $100 at risk, so I'll do this. No, you're trying to train a trading mechanism, a trading process. And so you should treat them all the same, essentially. And so I would back off so that there's no actual money at risk. But I don't even pay attention. I don't like to pay attention too much to how much is in the trade, because then it starts to influence your decisions. Your trading decisions should be all the same, no matter if it's $100 or 100,000. Why should the decision making be any different? You see what I'm saying? Why should there be any different? Well, I'm going to take this risk here because there's this much on the line. No, it's from a trading standpoint. The trading is trading. You should know the risk going into it, and you should be okay with it. But your trading decisions, your process should be the same. Jennifer says it's always good to not be too serious and not serious all the time. Life happens, but don't stress so much. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of good things. And like I say, if you can accept the fact that the odds are that whatever you're worrying about, really good odds, is that it's not as bad as you think. Okay, not as bad as you think. It probably won't be. So don't stress. Don't yell at your kids too much. Don't let it get you down too much. Try anyway. All right. So we've got now what, 10 minutes? 10 minutes. What do you want to look at? And while you're deciding, I'm going to show you a couple things. You hit the A button on when you're on Omega charts. If you hit the A button, it brings up this add to a chart. Okay. If you go to highlight bars right here, you will see, as you scroll down, you'll start to see all of the candle patterns. And there's other things, but you have the list of all the candle patterns that are available in here. You can click on these and add them. And what happens when you click on them and add them, I'll hit the E button, E as in echo, and it brings up this screen. And on this screen, it shows all of the things that are available for you to show on the screen. And you see that I have downloaded basically all the candle patterns just because. So I put them all. You can put the ones you want or the ones you don't want, or you can pick and choose, or you can put all of them. You can see down here, you can have different panes, and you can do all these different things the way you want to display them. And then you've got a checkbox. And so just for the heck of it, for grins and giggles, I just picked a whole bunch of the candles and I clicked on the chart just to see in this one, which is the S&P 500, how many of them would show up. And if you want to tell which one's which, well, you can put a different symbol on them, different color. I've got too many on here to differentiate. But when you take a look at this, up across the top, you see all these things in blue. I made some red, a couple of them green, and some of them have different shapes. But they now show up on the chart. And the easiest way to see them is to go to a line chart. And these are all the different candle patterns that are happening in the S&P 500. Now, do they mean anything? Right now, no, there's no correlation. But if you picked a particular reversal pattern that you were looking for, or two or three, and then you would look and say, I want to see if they happen. Oh, yes, they do. Where did they happen? Because remember, location is first. Where is it happening? If you have a reversal to the upside signal and it's happening at a support level, good. It probably means something. If it's a reversal signal to the upside and it's at the top of a run, it probably doesn't mean what it looks like or what it's supposed to mean, right? Location counts. And then you say, well, okay, did it work? Well, you find a reversal to the upside signal at a support and it followed through. Okay, great. Let's find another one. Oh, that one worked too. And if you find three of them and all three of them work, well, then now you've got a candle pattern that you can trust. you say, wow, this one seems to be working like all the time or most all the time. So I can watch for that one. So you could put it up here on a watch list, and every time it shows up, you would say, wow, the history on this is that this thing tends to work every time, or at least 8 out of 10 times. Now you've got a stronger signal that you can use to decide if you're going to play this to the upside when it starts to move, right? But I didn't get a chance to show you how this works. So again, hit A, and when you hit A, it brings up this add to chart. You go over and you click on highlight bars, and you scroll down and you say, give me a Harami cross to the bearish side or a Haramish cross to the bullish side. And you click on add, and it will add it. Okay. And this was saying, hey, you already got it. Yeah, I know. Okay. So shut down. Thank you. Then you go to E, and you bring up E, and it shows you what you can edit, which means what are the things that you can show and make adjustments to. And so here we have price, we have moving average, then we have, starting alphabetically, abandoned baby top, abandoned baby bottom, dragonfly, yada, yada, yada. You have all these different things. And so I've got them checked so that they show up, and I can just as easily go down and uncheck them. And you can see some of them are changing colors. For example, there's hangman is red. So we get the hangman, which is a bearish signal. And we've got that's colored red. You can pick highlight markers, boxes, zones. You can pick, I want it to be a circle. No, I want it to be a line. I want it to be a square. I want it to be an open triangle to the downside or to the upside. I want it to be green. So you can make the symbol whatever you want it to be, and then it will show up. Okay, if it shows up, it'll show up, and that'll be the signal that will give you what you're looking for. So now, let's see, I've cut this down quite a bit. I'll take a couple of things more out. Dark cloud cover, we'll leave that in there. I'll say it okay. And so now my list up on the top is much smaller, and the number of signals is less as well. And you can see I've got a red triangle pointing down, right? And it seems to be happening at dips consistently. So you would look at that. There's another one there. You say, oh, there should be something that's going on. What is it? So you will look at that, and that's the way that you can find it. I know Brenda says we're on a line chart. Yeah, we are, because that's easier to see where they're happening. Now they're candlestick signals, right? So you want to go here, and now you would look at that and find out what it is, Brenda, and evaluate it. But just a quick look, see, it's a little harder to see here with the red and green colors where your signals are happening. So I always just go like this to spot them, and then zoom in like this. She says, okay, well, thank you. I didn't want to get in trouble with Brenda, but that's good. Okay. Okay. So somebody said, can we look at Tesla? Certainly. So here's Tesla. And Tesla is in it's in a downward trend. And I am going to give you a little bit of perspective on this, because this is something that I have outlined. We had a breakout on Tesla last month, and it came back down, tested the top of the trading range, and fell back down. So here's what goes on, guys. Here's what goes on. I'm going to go ahead and put the extension on this line, and I'll take it out to the right. And we'll go to the bottom of the trading range. And this is the opposite of an uptrend, right? This is a downtrend. In a downtrend, it's the top line that counts. This is the one that defines it, the top line, the support, the resistance line. In an uptrend, the support line defines it. So with Tesla's drop today, well, yesterday, and the follow through today, with Tesla, it's looking for support. Now, if you notice, this was the last major rally point that we had in Tesla. Okay, this goes back to November. And you can see that yesterday, when it gapped down, it rallied back up. I don't think this is a coincidence. I really don't. I've done this so long, so much. I don't believe in coincidences. but it rallied back up to try to come up to a level where the price support is there. There's history of price support. It wasn't there. So it turned around and collapsed. What does that mean? To me, guys, that simply means that Tesla and the traders who trade Tesla are looking for the next support level. Well, where is that going to be? Where are we going to find support? In the trend, it's going to be down here around this 160 range, 158. If it follows this down, if it comes down over a few days, it could get down there. Oh my gosh, look what happened over on the left. Look to the left, guys. You know this. I always tell you, look to the left for significance. There is a reason why Tesla may come down to this level looking for support. And I'm guaranteeing you that that will not be a coincidence if that happens. Okay. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I have no idea. But if it does, it'll make sense because I can see why it would go there. And if it does, it'll be another very significant place to trade Tesla. Because if the buyers come back, if the buyers can't come back here, there is another spot. Eventually, the trading with Tesla will reach an equilibrium. They will find a consensus where everybody's fine with this price. We don't need to take it any lower. Let's rally this sucker back up. And it could be down at about 110, or it could be in the 160 range. I don't know. I don't need to know. But from a trading standpoint, I just need to know the significance of where we're at so that when we get there, I'll know that this is a pivot point. This is a point where whatever happens next is going to be significant. And I don't care if it breaks through because I can write it down to 110. Or if it rallies, I can rally it back up to 180, which would be about the mid-range on this. And 180 to about 195, that's going to be a support level or a resistance level on the way back up. If it gets past that, well, then we could go up to the gap fill, and the gap fill would be around 207. And if that doesn't hold it back and it continues to push to the upside, I would be looking for, come to Papa, here we go, extend that to the right, and booyah, we're going to be looking up at around 215, 210, 200, depends on where it's at by the time it gets there. But I'm telling you that as long as these lines are in place and it's playing between the lines, we are in a downtrend. Now, one last thing, and we're out of time. One rotation, two rotation. We're in the third rotation of this downtrend. Patterns tend to go 3 to 5 times. You know that. Usually they break after 3. They can go as long as 5, rarely ever more than 5. But it takes 3 to establish a trend, either up or down. And whatever happens after the third one, there's no guarantee unless you've got a history of the stock being able to do 4 or 5. That'd be awesome. But you have to look back in time and say, how many times does it rotate on an upward trend or a downward trend? And if it typically goes 3 to 4 times, then it probably will go 3 or 4 times the next one, right? So what you're looking for is why this, these lines seem to control Tesla. They don't. They're simply describing or outline what it's actually doing. And if it's following a pattern, it's following a pattern. Not because I put the lines there, but because the lines accurately describe the pattern that's in place. And right now, it seems to pretty accurately describe what's going on. Now, the fact that Tesla did a breakout and it's fallen back down inside, if it does not go down to 160-ish, if it's able to rally back up here and close the gap, then the likelihood, and I'm just going to put this up here and then take it away, but this is the possibility of the next phase for Tesla. This is one of the scenarios that could play out. If the traders come back quickly and fill this gap and say, nope, just kidding, then there is likely a breakout above the trend line here. And if that happens, then you would look for this new angle of attack. This becomes not the gap, this becomes the significant rally point is coming back. If they fill the gap and climb back in here, that would be the angle of attack. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. I have no idea. But I know it could. I know it could. But I'll wait till something happens, and then I'll tell you what it looks like. And I'm pretty good at describing what it looks like and what the possibilities are. Sometimes it makes it look like I'm telling the stock where to go. I'm not. I'm just recognizing the pattern and laying out, if it goes here, this is why. If it goes to the next support level, this is where it will be. And when it does it, it does it. There you go. All right, guys. I'm sorry we couldn't do more, but I wanted to finish off as I told you a month ago. Every class, I want to be able to do a little bit of this with you. And if you'd like, let me know. If you want to do a whole class where we do nothing but take um, your stock requests and we analyze them for you, that would be fun too. Let me know. I guys, I'd love to be able to fill orders and have you look on the menu and say, of all the things we've done in the past, can we do this? Can we just have a class with just nothing but charting, or can we work on indicators? What do you want? Brenda says, I would love to do this. Let's do it. Okay. Thanks, Charles and Will. Appreciate the compliments. I thank you very much. Um, how do we send you those requests? Uh, just send it to support. They'll get it to me. But you can type it right here. I'm taking notes. So if you want to just type it in right now, because Brenda said I like this, this format. Let's do some of this. Okay, let's do it. We will. Charles says I'd like that. Okay, well we'll start with this. Trader says thanks for the inner circle. It was fantastic. I really loved that. The inner circle stuff was great. It's a good thing, guys. If you're not in it, you should be. That's the kind of the exclusive club, right? It was fun. We put a lot of hours in there last weekend. Okay, great. Well, I tell you what, this is what we'll do next time. We'll just spend our time doing this. That way we can take all the requests that you want, and we'll just analyze the stocks using the way that I do charting. And so you'll probably learn something. It'll probably be fun. There you go. Take care, guys. God bless. Have yourself a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time around. Okay. Bye bye.